again. It's Emma here. If you listen very carefully, you may be able to hear my doggies snoring in the background. Sometimes they're quiet and sometimes they're quite loud. See if you can hear them. In this video, I'm going to read you some more stories from our book. "5-minute Tales" with the wizard on the front. Let's have a look inside. So, I found another story about Emma, and here it is. It's called Emma's Grandma. And it goes like this. One day, Emma's mummy said, "Grandma is coming to stay. She is going to have the front room downstairs." One of the first things Grandma did after she had unpacked was to get out her big bag of knitting wools. "Well now, Emma," she said, "what would you like me to knit?" "I'd like a pair of nice woolly gloves. Red, please." So Grandma knitted Emma a lovely pair of red woolly gloves. Then she knitted her a pair of blue ones, and a green pair, and a yellow pair, and by the end of the year, Emma had red gloves and blue gloves and yellow gloves and green gloves and pink gloves and brown gloves, and she had scarves to match all of her gloves. At last, Mummy said that Emma would need somewhere special to hold all of her gloves and scarves. So Daddy made her a big box and put a label on it: Emma's gloves and scarves. But then Grandma went on knitting and knitting and knitting for Emma, and the box soon got filled up. And Mummy said that she really must stop. Soon after Christmas, Teacher said that there was to be a grand fair to help the little children at the orphanage. "What can I take?" Emma asked Grandma. Grandma thought and thought. Then she said, "I know, you could take some of your gloves and scarves. The box would not be so full, and I could start knitting for you again." So Emma took her blue scarves and her blue gloves and her green gloves and her green scarves and her brown gloves and her brown scarves with their matching things to school. And the teacher was so very pleased because she knew they would fetch lots of money at the fair. And Emma was pleased because everybody said her grandma was a super grandma to have made such pretty gloves and scarves. And Grandma was pleased because now she could start knitting all over again for the little girl she loved best in the whole wide world. It's a nice story, isn't it? Let's see what other stories we have in here. Okay. There are lots of interesting stories here. I'm going to pick one that I think you might like. Let's see. Ooh, okay. This story is called The King Who Loved Games. Let's see. There he is. There's the king, playing games. He looks like a fun king. So, the king who loved games. Once upon a time, there was a king who loved games. As soon as he heard that a new game had been invented, he sent out one of his ministers to buy it. He kept this minister so busy that in the end he made him his Grand Minister of Games. Every room in the palace had shelves with games on them. All the cupboards were filled with games, and in the cellar there were boxes and boxes of games piled right up to the ceiling, leaving room for nothing else. When the king had a birthday, he was given more games as presents, and this delighted him. Only the queen refused to show any pleasure. She spent her days complaining bitterly about the king's games, and when one day 2 heavy games fell out of her royal wardrobe and hit her on the head, she was absolutely as furious can be. "There will be no more games," she screamed. "I will leave the palace if I see just one more game on any of the shelves or in any cupboard." She'd had enough. Now, the king loved his queen, next to his games of course, and he did not want to lose her, so he promised that he would not bring any more games into the palace. This promise made him so miserable that he went off for his food and retired to his bed at 6 o'clock every night. Oh, poor king. The Minister of Games was very miserable too because he had nothing to do. He spent all his time walking about in the royal park, and it was there that he saw a young boy with a club-shaped stick. The boy was using his stick to strike a small white ball, and then, when the ball had stopped, he struck it again. "What are you doing?" asked the minister. "I'm trying to hit the ball so that it drops into that hole over there," said the boy. "It's super fun." "That's it!" exclaimed the minister, and he searched about until he found a big flat piece of ground. Then he told the gardener to make lots of holes in it. He put brightly coloured flags in the holes with numbers on them, and when this was done, he had the carpenter make him a special kind of stick. Now he had a game which the king could enjoy outside the palace, and the queen could not say the king had broken his promise. The king was delighted with his new game. He spent hours and hours trying to get his little white ball into a different hole, and he made his Grand Minister of Games a knight and raised his salary. That's a fun story, isn't it? Okay. Now, I found a story that looks like it's quite similar to my favourite story when I was a little girl. And my favourite story was The Princess and the Pea. And this looks like it's the same story, and I haven't read it yet. So shall we read it together? Look at the picture. That looks like a very tall bed with a little girl at the top. So let's see. The Real Princess. There was a young, handsome prince who could not find a girl to marry. "I'm growing old," his father, the king, told him one morning. "Your mother and I have been looking forward to your wedding. Why can't you find a suitable bride?" "I have seen a great many girls," said the prince sadly. "Some are very beautiful, it is true, but not one of them could make me believe that she was a real princess." Oh. The king and queen looked at each other in despair, and the young prince left the room, knowing he had made them unhappy. That night there was an awful storm of wind and rain and thunder and lightning, and in the middle of it all there came a loud knocking at the palace door. The old king himself went to open it, and there, standing before him, was a princess. But she didn't look at all like a princess, for the rain had taken all the curls out of her long golden hair, and the wind had torn her long dress to shreds. "She says she's a real princess," the old king said to his wife. "Ah, well, we shall soon find out," said the queen. And without another word, she went to the small bedroom where she had decided the princess would spend the night. Then she summoned a maid and told her to put 20 thick mattresses on the bed. How would they manage that? That must be heavy. And these were to be placed on top of 3 small peas. "Did you spend a comfortable night, my dear?" the queen asked the princess in the morning. "Oh dear, no," said the princess with a small, charming little pout. "I scarcely closed my eyes, for there were small, hard things in my bed which kept me awake." The queen was delighted to hear this, for she knew only a real princess would have felt the little peas. And so, too, with the handsome prince, they were married in the next week. Very quick. And look, she needed a ladder to climb to the top of her bed. Isn't that funny? I'm surprised that she didn't fall off. So, there we have it, our book. And I just read 3 stories from the book. I hope you enjoyed that. It's called 55-Minute Tales. It's a very old book. I hope you're well, and I hope that you sleep well and you have a fun day tomorrow. Take care. See you soon.